Let me introduce to you my guests who are already seated in studio. I have to my right the special aide to former President Mahama, Joyce Bawa Mogtari. Good morning to you, Joyce. How are you?
Good morning. How are you too?
It's good to see you.
Likewise.
It's been a minute.
Thank you very much.
And I also have joining me for the first time on this show, the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Barbara Ayisi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank
It's good to
God.
have you here.
My
You're
pleasure.
welcome to Breakfast Daily. All right, so we are going to have a conversation about the Sex for Grades saga that's been ongoing, and our first delving into the issue of the interdiction that has taken place. Let me start with the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. Well, what is your take on this story? I will read briefly let me read quickly the headlines that we have here for that. Professor Akosua Domako says Ghanaians are behaving like ostriches, you know. And then let me read the one that says that Prof. Jampo and Dr. Butako have been interdicted. I won't read the whole thing. All right, so it says here, the two, Prof. Ransford Jampo and Dr. Paul Kwame Butako, are expected to be hauled before the university's anti-sexual harassment committee to assist with internal investigations. The Business and Executive Committee of the university has taken a decision to interdict Prof. Ransford Jampo and Dr. Paul Kwame Butako, the two lecturers featured in the documentary, to allow for further investigations into the matter. In line with the university's regulation, the two will be invited by the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee in the next few days to assist with further investigations into the BBC documentary, a statement from the university indicated. So, first of all, what's your take on this whole saga?
Okay. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here. This is my second time. But the first time, I think,
Okay.
a lady hosted.
Okay, so
Yes,
so
the
you've been
program.
here before, but
Absolutely.
not with me.
No.
Okay,
no.
so I'm privileged to host you for the first time.
Thank you, and it's a privilege to be on your program as well. I'm very much excited, most especially that the president is not a president who decides to stay in Accra, in the capital city, but decides to tour the whole of Ghana to find out what is actually going on, to find out what is on the ground, to actually acknowledge the fact that he really appreciates what the good people of Ghana
We'll delve into
are
that
doing.
in his trip.
And I wish to use your platform to say good morning to everyone who is watching us this morning, most especially the President, the Vice, the First and Second Ladies, and my own constituent. I'm a member of Parliament as well for Cape Coast North. Sexual harassment. I like the caption. BBC expose, BBC Sex for Grades, undercover in West African school, right?
West African universities.
Universities, yes. That is an interesting caption. But before I get to even, what's in there, I just want to talk about sexual harassment in general. When you're talking about sexual harassment, I just did a little bit of, research before I got here, is an unwelcoming verbal or physical behavior of a sexual abuse nature, especially by a person in authority. That is a very simple definition. That is what you say, what you do, unacceptable body
Unwelcome.
touch, and all these things are all part of sexual harassment. This is something that we shouldn't run away from. It happens all the time, not just in our institutions or our schools. It also happens in the workspace when a young girl wants a job and moves to a company or an organization, and the boss wants to take advantage, sleep with her, or touch certain parts of the body. Sometimes you even have to know where to draw the line. Sometimes people just playing with you. Before you realize they've touched a place that you don't have to touch. If you were in Europe or outside Ghana, you could even prosecute, or you could even sue a person for touching an area unacceptable, which is unacceptable. But sometimes we take so many things for granted in this country. So it is something that is happening, and I want you to use your this big, huge platform that you have given me to entreat everyone who is, into all, in harassing young girls. It could also be the other way around. It's not just only women. It could also be for boys as well. It is bad. It is unacceptable. Somebody can sue you for such an action. So we should know that. And if you are fortunate to occupy a very key position, know that somebody can sue you because this behavior is unacceptable. Now coming to what happened at the University of Ghana, it's quite unfortunate. I mean, what happened to Professor Jampo and the other professor? It's a Butako. Yes, it's really quite unfortunate. But when I heard about the expose, oh goodness. In fact, I was sometimes I also have to empathize, see, because anything that happens to anyone can.
But you're also a former teacher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, but we shouldn't also be too quick.
Okay.
To charge. I don't want to be judgmental. I mean, we all have our flaws and our weaknesses and all those things. But once I've said that it is an unacceptable behavior to sexually harass somebody, I've made my point clear. But looking at this expose, when I heard about the BBC expose, I was thinking that I'm going to find Professor Jambo, compromise in a certain way. Maybe who has probably told the lady that, no, oh, this is your script. You did perform poorly, but if you do not allow me to sleep with you, then you performed well. But if I did not sleep with you, you're going to fail. Or maybe you as a girl realize that you failed, but because you want to pass, you try to, have such a relationship with the lecturer so that at the end of the day, even if you failed, you could pass. So we never saw all these things. All that I saw was Professor Jampo, just a normal adult talk. Sometimes it's quite embarrassing in a way. I mean, some of the things I say. But this is a normal...
But, Barbara, here's the thing. The BBC documentary put in inverted commas, sex for grades, which means that it's an insinuation of sex for grades. And not necessarily a direct statement that they've caught somebody having sex.
I agree with you.
Right? However, I think that the issue is the compromising situation that someone in authority.
Absolutely.
So for me, I don't even think that we need more stark evidence, because the issue here is using your position or power, verbally or physically, harassing someone. I mean, the definition read.
Absolutely. But where did you find that kind of harassment? How did you find? I mean, I'm sure you've also watched the tape.
Yes, I have.
How does harassment come in here?
Okay, so the definition you read, if you can read that.
I mean, what I said, that sexual harassment is unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual abuse nature. Assuming a man and a woman meet. Two adults. So no, I'm not here to defend anybody.
So notice what it says.
Yes.
Verbal, unwelcome.
Absolutely.
Unwelcome. So the issue is, if the lady, as soon as he began to do his interaction with the lady and said, you know what, and the lady says, yeah, I'm interested, let's do this, let's go, let's do this. She kept saying, but I'm just a student. Or she would say, don't go there, I respect you, you're my mentor,
Absolutely. I mean, that conversation itself was uncalled for.
She's showing that I don't appreciate.
Absolutely. So you don't have to even go there at all.
Exactly. So it's unwelcome.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
But for grades, you see, the whole caption, you try to pull people's attention to something. That people compromise because they want to get better grades.
Yes.
That is what you want. Not the normal sexual harassment we all know. I mean, people harass people every day.
But don't you think this would lead eventually to the compromising of grades?
That is what Ghanaians wanted to see. That is what they wanted to see. So that would confirm. having sex, harassing somebody to ensure that you get proper grades. You understand?
So are you saying that
it could be harassment because the lady said she didn't. It wasn't not welcoming. The lady, they did not actually wasn't too much interested in what Professor Jampo was saying. I agree perfectly with you. But looking at the caption BBC gave to the expose, that sex for grades.
Why are you taking issue with the caption when the raw problem in front of us
you want to prove a point.
Is
you see,
clear.
you want to prove a point. It happens all the time. There's no. We all agree to the fact that.
Let's say the caption is a misnomer. Let's say the caption is a misnomer.
But the image of Ghana and the image of the investee is also very important. Have you thought about that?
So you're more interested in protecting the image.
No, please don't misquote me. Please, I beg you.
I'm asking you a question.
No. The point I want to raise is that we've all condemned the behavior, and we all should also not run from the fact that these things happen.
All the time.
Young, beautiful girls, young guys too, who, presumably, or who are even doing well, sometimes are abused sexually because they do not succumb or they do not compromise to some of these things. So we've all condemned that act already. But I am more interested in, because when you have a caption, you see, let me tell you, I granted an interview recently. And when I saw the heading, I said, but I was so happy the video was there. So can't you read? Don't you understand? What I said is totally different from how you have captioned. And it's there, the video is there. So anybody who listened will know that, no, this kind of reportage is, abysmal. You understand? Okay. So the point I want to raise is that once you are talking about sex for grades, you see, everybody's attention is drawn to, hey, Lego, what is going to happen? You see, what is going to happen? And these are things that happen.
But if you're looking for sex on video, then you don't understand the headline, sex for grades, because it says sex for grades in inverted commas, which means you're not actually going to see people compromise.
What is the purpose of keeping us in suspense?
I don't think it's
suspense.
Or
give that double
I think it's an insinuation
for what you were saying.
I think it's an insinuation
of
where this thing can lead.
We should also expect that these things happen.
Because they will lead eventually to demanding for sex.
When you want to do an investigation,
do
a proper investigation. That will let the whole world know that indeed. But now that is why, it's like he can give an excuse that no, this is an adult, and I feel it's like just a normal adult talk. You see, because there's nowhere we hear that. Okay, please, I'm going to do this. If you do not do this, this is what I'm going to do. Because it's not just harassment, sexual harassment, but harassment for grades.
Okay.
So you're going to harass the person to ensure that.
So you watched the documentary?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so as a former Deputy Minister of Education and also a former teacher of Wesley Girls, how did you feel about Jampo's advances, Professor Jampo's advances towards the girl?
For me, I wasn't happy. And I wasn't happy in the sense that Professor Jampo is a role model. He's very vocal. Looking at those of us in the limelight, when you are a public figure, you have to be careful. You have to. Once you're a critique, you've criticized people. Once your A is your A, this is this, just as you have expressed in the past, then make sure that you have to be careful. 2, it looked like the lady, was not really interested in some of the things that, Professor Jampo was saying. Some of the point like kissing and, is it some of the things that he said that I don't want to say. Requested for. These are things, it's normal. We shouldn't be hypocrites. These are the things that actually men ask from women. But once the person is a student, that is my worry. And it makes me a little bit worried because that lady posed as a student.
Yes.
So if the person is a student of the same university and you know what is expected of you as a lecturer, the rules and regulations that bind you, then you shouldn't go there at all.
Okay. I'll come back to you again. Joyce.
Yes, sir.
How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
What is your take on the interdiction that the public affairs of University of Ghana have, the action they've taken, and where this is going? Is it enough? Is it a little too late? What's your take on this?
Well, thank you very much. A very good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers out there. And well, thank you very much. Two things arise. I would personally first and foremost indicate that I stand with all the young girls who suffer these things. I stand with workers generally who experience sexual harassment in the workplace, in the work environment. I stand generally with all young people who at one time or the other would experience or encounter such unwanted attention, be it of a sexual kind or otherwise. The question we should be asking secondly is that, do we want to maintain the status quo? Do we want to continue with this penchant for silence when these things happen? Do we want to continue to sweep under the carpet matters that pertain to sex, sexual harassment, and all of these things that most often than not, we do not accord the requisite importance or relevance? I believe for quite some time now there's been a conversation going on about sexual harassment in all sorts of places. And of course, considering that the Me Too movement was extremely successful, actually got many individuals. Some started with basic allegations, eventually there were prosecutions, and of course incarceration of some. Some very, very long sentences to indicate the seriousness that is attached to such offenses or crimes. We do need every now and then to consider the psychological repercussions that such activities have on young persons, first and foremost. Indeed, I also keep telling people that most people who perpetrate such crimes on persons would pick their victims very carefully, because most often than not, it is a predatory habit or outlook that you have. So it will cause you to pick up on probably the quieter ones, the less vocal ones, the less aggressive ones, or the most disturbed ones. Sometimes even you'd find in the student environment that young people who are not very strong academically, who are not so competitive, tend to want to stand at the corner and wait for the lecturer to leave. They always have questions. They always want to go to your office. They would like to send you a text message or call you to discuss some of these things. What I would want to take from the video, and I believe it is still just an allegation, is the question everybody is asking. Do you want your young, vulnerable girls, or children for that matter, to be under the tutelage of individuals who would carry on in such a manner with somebody perceived as a student or otherwise? It's a question we should be asking. Secondly, do you expect that when students complain, do you think this is the first time that the university authorities or work people in leadership anywhere at all would be receiving complaints of this kind? What we should be asking is that prior to this expose by the BBC, how were universities handling these issues, or schools handling these issues, or the workplace for that matter? Indeed, I actually did some research yesterday, realizing that the University of Ghana Act, in particular, of 2010, is silent on disciplinary measures to do with students, etc. But of course, fortunately, they have a set of guidelines, specifically on their sexual harassment policy. So I would say they have an anti-sexual harassment policy in place, which I think was fundamentally very illuminating.
But I want you to make a comment on this for me. The chair of that committee that you just mentioned, Dr. Amwakuhini, initially, her initial comments were that there's no issue of misconduct as far as she's concerned, and basically brushed the issue aside. When the documentary was aired, and there was a lot of furore in the public, and the university took a decision, she seems to have backtracked and says that we found, after watching the documentary, that these acts of misconduct are unacceptable and we need to investigate further. And so this decision
You know,
has been taken?
first and foremost, I did not only listen to Dr. Amakohene.
Okay.
I listened to her predecessor,
Okay.
who had occupied the same position
Yes.
prior to her arrival. And she had admitted
Yes.
that they had actually experienced some of these
Yes,
things.
she admitted it. She said it was
Absolutely.
rampant.
Exactly.
She had been. She says with a 30-year experience.
Exactly.
This is something that was very common.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And I personally took great interest because it's a subject matter that I've written about extensively. So I followed the discussion.
Okay.
And so when I listened to the successor speak in the way that she did,
Yeah.
I was actually quite taken aback. And I thought, okay, maybe she was just probably issuing a cautionary statement. She was being cautious because, of course, under these circumstances, note, first and foremost, reputations are at stake.
True.
A reputation once lost can never be recovered. So in every commentary that we make, we must always remember that these are some individuals who have actually been clearly mentioned. Very, very key individuals for that matter. So there is also a certain extent that you would not go. There is something we have to think about. For example, those of us who come onto these shows, there is a certain legal responsibility, a certain obligation that is placed upon you, not to needlessly malign or undertake in, unsubstantiated gossip, for example.
True.
But of course, I expected that someone who is actually serving on such a committee, or as a parent for that matter, or even as a teacher, be that as it may, should actually be conscious of the fact that these things do happen.
Yeah, please hold your thought there and don't forget your train of thought. Yeah, we're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And don't forget that the hashtag is Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585832. Let me just quickly read this by a quote from Professor Akosua Adomako. She says, I get so exhausted when people say the students also harass the lecturer. And I ask if they, lecturers, don't have the strength. You that have more power and responsibility more than her. It is a recurring problem, as people have said, and we are behaving like ostriches. This is something that is ongoing in our environment. We are aware of it. It happens to our daughters, sisters, and occasionally our brothers. And until someone speaks up and the rest of us continue to go on with our daily life, and that is very disturbing. All right, so this is a quote from Professor Akosua Adomako. Yes, so you were commenting before we went.
Oh, yes, certainly. So she couldn't have put it better. So it is the reason why I think that first and foremost, as a professional, I wouldn't put a lot of premium on the allegations that have been put in by the expose. I, however, expect that the university and many other institutions will take a second look at matters to do with sexual harassment. And I do agree that when you're in a position of trust, for example, you're a teacher and you're engaging with students, naturally there would be a certain conduct or a certain contact that probably does not necessarily reflect the true relationship. We're in Ghana. We have students and lecturers who are married.
Yes.
We have students even at the secondary level who left school and moved in with a teacher on campus. This has been going on for many years. It's not a new issue. It's not something that just started. It does happen, even on campus. I remember there was even a time when there was a law really for the public service that if both of you were in the same environment and you were dating, one of you would have to be transferred. Absolutely. Yeah. The banks, for example, do it a lot. But if you come to the judicial service, there are judges who are married to each other. They both serve on the bench. It does happen. In every human environment, there is a certain extent where there will be some level of relations that will develop. But when you come down to issues to do with sexual harassment, they are of the kind that are unwelcome, that are unacceptable, that in many ways get you to probably through duress, through some unwanted pressure, get someone to do something that they do not intend to do, especially when you're in a position of trust. Someone entrusts their children into your care. For example, you are a lecturer on a university campus. young people would look up to you. Young students will engage with you.
Yeah.
Certainly, let me not sit here and say that there aren't those young girls who would take probably undue advantage, who will probably deliberately offer to an extent some level of contact that probably is unwanted. But I would also know and say quickly, there are male tutors who have chastised, who have probably reported, who have even lodged complaints, who have stopped young girls from communicating with them out of hours, coming to their offices. I know some male teachers who will always encourage another person, oh, join me, the student is coming to discuss A, B, or C.
Yeah.
Come and join me. Or even encourage them to come with other students. People do make an effort. But let's remember, there are the bad nuts who do the wrong things.
Okay, so Joyce,
and today we are focusing more on persons of authority who do these needless things, who needlessly touch and pressure young girls or young boys.
So like you
into
said,
doing
I
the
mean,
wrong things.
the people in authority, they are referred to, and I'm sure it's in your lingua franca, in loco parentis, right?
Yes.
In place of a parent. Now,
or a custodian or a guardian.
But then, what about the issue of sex for grades? As Barbara was saying earlier on, that there's nothing about sex for grades in the video.
You know, I am not too sure what level of premium to put on the video or the expose for that matter. I believe that we saw that there was a student actor. We saw that there was a lecturer involved. The conversation probably is what we expect to refer to a certain conversation, a certain approach, a certain opening of a line of conversation that allows you to think that possibly in return for sexual favors of a certain kind, you might become a good student, a better student, or you do well. I am not sure what went into the background of this particular documentary. I don't know the extent they went to. But of course, when you even watch it casually, the question you ask simply is whether or not, even in your capacity as a lecturer, should you really be opening yourself up to such a conversation?
I want to be your side
guy. And the language is quite low. You know what I mean? Without thinking about the personalities involved, you will not even be expecting such a conversation to be taking place. There are adults who have a certain policy. If they don't have a certain relationship with you, and you send them a certain text, or you send them a message at a certain time of the day, they would simply not respond. It is to tell you indirectly that this is not the level on which we are. It's inappropriate behavior. So I think there's also inappropriate conversation. There is inappropriate interaction. You do all that before you get to inappropriate touches and unwelcome compliments, which is what a lot of people start off with. You know, sometimes even in the US, if you stand in a lift with somebody, they are not even supposed to, if they're not your friend, tell you look good or they like your outfit or they just, no. It is unwelcome. In politics now, governments have a certain guideline for how male politicians should relate to their female counterparts and vice versa. It is a subject that we need to discuss. I am particularly delighted this morning that at least I know that our universities have a sexual harassment policy or guideline in place. They would know whether or not these people have fallen foul of that. But in terms of what premium, be it legal or otherwise, to put on that expose, I do not want to make any pronouncement of judgment on it. Indeed, there have been many other exposés. How were they handled? In the one with Anas and the judges in particular, if you recall, there was a full-blown investigation. Some even resigned before the investigation. But note, there were also those judges on that video who did not succumb to the pressure, no matter the level of provocation. There is always that too. So imagine that we had watched the same video and seen a lecturer of any repute quickly chastise the student or whoever it was for a certain line of conversation. Then, of course, you would take something away that, yes, certainly. But when you watch the interaction, you ask whether indeed persons such as this should be engaging in the devoted vocation of teaching. But I do not want to pronounce on their morality or otherwise. I also don't know what the history is with regards to the gentlemen who have been interdicted. But the university really had no option but to call for calm, to pause, and of course to investigate however they deem fit. But first and foremost, I think that these are matters that should be approached from a position of a certain psychological perspective, noting that the gender professor herself mentioned that even in cases where young girls have lodged complaints, they do not want people to know because, one, they fear that there will be threats on their lives, that they will probably be harassed by other people, that they will probably be blacklisted, that people will start to see them differently. So we either want to make a very large call for everybody to come out, or we want to ensure that these hearings are in camera, that the individual's identity will be protected, that of course the gentleman also in question would have redress or recourse to legal remedies as are available to them. I believe that we live in a democracy, we live under a constitution, everybody has a right, one way or the other. And of course, my rights would start where yours begin. So let's see how this plays out. But I think this is a conversation we must have, that some guidelines, some policies must be put in place. First, to ensure protection. Secondly, to ensure support for persons who have suffered psychologically from such activities. And so this morning, I stand with all young persons who have suffered sexual harassment in any environment, be it as a student, be it in basic, in senior high, wherever, in politics, in our work environment, name it. It happens everywhere. It cuts across all of our social interactions. And I think that it is time for us all to stem it, to put a stop to it, and of course, persons who are accused would likewise have redress or recourse to the legal options that are available. And I believe I listened to Professor Jampo. He actually says he's actually going to take the BBC to court. I don't know to what extent the university collaborated with the BBC. I also don't understand how the BBC came up with this whole idea.
They started about a year ago.
Exactly.
And I don't think there was any collaboration. I think because there was a letter that the BBC sent to the university to tell them that they are about to air this, and they sought their comments.
Yes, and I do recall, I even listened to a program yesterday. I believe that even the individuals were actually also exactly, and they've known for like 2 weeks that this was about to happen. I believe it was an opportunity for them to actually also respond in one way or the other. I do not know whether they knew the extent or what types of tapes had been taken or even had an idea about the footage. But as I said, persons in responsibility, persons in positions of trust, persons in leadership, persons who have control over young people of any age or over people generally must watch how they relate with these persons. There is some behavior that is considered inappropriate.
All right. So I have a few messages here for you that you've been sending in. Teacher Constitution from Riamwase says, University of Ghana should leave Prof. Jampo alone because there was nowhere in the video that he was having sex with the lady. I think you misunderstand the point of the documentary. Teacher Constitution. How is he going to help a person who is not a student of University of Ghana? Well, the understanding was that she was actually a student of the University of Ghana, but not his student in his department, but she found him as a mentor and somebody who could impact her future in terms of her career and so on, her future education. Anyway, Don Pino from Malam says, I'm very happy with the University of Ghana has suspended those irresponsible lecturers. This nonsense has deprived us of some of our future wives. Okay.
Future wives.
Interesting.
Psychological
Interesting there.
All right.
The next topic for discussion is the president's tour of the Bono region. And I want to start with you, Joyce. The chief of SAMPA says that the president definitely deserves another 4 years, and so we should give it to him. He's been touring the country, and right now he's specifically in the Bono region. What do you think about this?
Well, thank you very much. I do believe that in most of our political engagements, we've had leaders over the years who undertake these tours regularly at one point or the other. I remember the public assemblies that former President Kufuor used to engage in. I remember the constituency tours that former President Nelson, of course, President Mahama used to undertake upon themselves to engage with stakeholders, to engage with citizens across the length and breadth of the country. I do believe that His Excellency the President Ado Kwaku Sakyi is doing pretty much the same. In terms of endorsements by chiefs and all categories of persons, I think that these are not new to our political discourse either. These are matters that have been ongoing for a very long time. If you recall, in the run-up to the 2016 election, I'm sure that even President Mahama and many other people were very convinced, indeed members of the NDC had no doubt that they were going to get a second term, especially beginning from 2015. It was probably in the last few months to the election that people could suddenly tell that there was a certain air of change that was blowing across the country, that Ghanaians indeed had made up their minds that they would be voting for the new patriotic party, which had hitherto been an opposition party into government.
Let me read.
So when it comes to
let me read what Nana
endorsements,
says, and then you can comment. Let me read what Nana says. So the acting president of the Sampa traditional area, Nana Kwejo Maksa II, says that President Nana Akufo-Addo deserves a second term in office following the good work of his government since assuming office in January 2017. He says, and I quote, "We thank you for the creation of the Bono region, for which our MP, Siaka Stevens, has become deputy minister. You haven't forgotten us in German North, and we have gotten our fair share of development. We cannot forget the water project," and then he goes on and on and on. Yeah.
You know, thanks to that headline, I've actually just opened Google and I've seen many other similar headlines. Mahama bribing chiefs with V8s, of chiefs and political endorsements, of chiefs and the woes of political leaders and endorsements. Chiefs would normally be asked to stay away from politics but continues to make these endorsements, many others. And so, as I said, the chief only has one vote. In fact, in most cases even, the chiefs will not go in queue to vote. But normally, when there's a region that is created, we do know the extent to which people had actually clamored for these new regions to be created. Indeed, the Upper West region in particular and the Upper East region, if you recall, used to all be the upper region of the northern region. They clamored for a very long time to have regions for themselves.
Yeah.
And when President Rawlings gave those regionals, whatever to them, I remember, till date, you still hear people from the Upper West region and Upper East who speak glamorously about individual regions. But going beyond creation of regions, there are also usually challenges to do with creation of new districts. Presently, in the Savannah region, I listened to one of our foremost chiefs actually insisting that every administrative issue should be brought to the capital of the region. So we do know that this is early days yet. There will still be debates and there will be schools of thought about these things. But as for chiefs and endorsements, remember Techi Mahini endorsing President Mahama and praying and evoking all the gods to ensure that he stayed forever as president of Ghana. So I think that these things are all part of our political conversation. We are particularly very traditional and culturally accommodating people. So I do not expect that the president will visit your place, for example, and a chief will not know.
So it's not a big deal?
Personally, as a politician, no. I think it does
It won't
happen.
have any impact?
I'm sure if I go to my village today, you'll be surprised. And if you tune in now, you'd see that everybody who knows me is watching and cheering me on.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, Barbara.
Yes, my dear.
Your president is touring, and you opened up by saying that he's not the president who stays in Accra.
Absolutely.
And so you're very, excited about the fact that he's touring other regions and so on. Is this not what the Sampa chief is saying? Is it not just a matter of protocol and the right thing to do? Just say thank you for getting us a region of our own.
Okay, thank you. In my local dialect, there's a saying, "Awanzapa onkasa." Your good work, we should walk the talk. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Ado Kwaku Sakyi, had a huge dream. One thing I believe is that once you have the will, there will always be a way. He spoke of making free SHS, making SHS free. My dear sister and our brothers and sisters on the other side felt that, this is not something that we can do. But look at what is happening. Now we have the third batch. And he encouraged them that work assiduously, work very hard, so that when you write the final exams, it will attest to the fact that indeed the free SHS has come to stay and will not compromise quality as well as standards. I'm very happy the president once in a while, moves out of Accra, because he's not a president who sits here in Accra and then probably takes a phone and calls to find out what is happening elsewhere. He has to go around to see, to ensure. And I'm so very happy that when he went to the Bono State, look at when he visited the midwifery school, and the students were so much excited, indicating that, we know that we thought, initially you said that we were going to restore our nursing training allowances. By the grace of God, under your tutelage, under your leadership, you've been able to restore our allowances. It's good news. The free senior high school has come, not for the rich or people who have the resources, but for underprivileged. I've been a teacher before, and how it feels like when you are very much intelligent, when you know that you are capable, but at a stage in life, you think that, no, there's no money and you cannot further your education, which has happened to, I'm sure, most of our mothers, most of our sisters, who under normal circumstances could have actually moved higher than where they are now, were not able to, because they never had the opportunity of enjoying a free SHS. Again, the double track system, which, the 30% that was given to our young people from the underprivileged, or not underprivileged, like the public schools. Go to Wesley Girls now. You find a child, go to Holy Child, a child who is in the public school, maybe with grade 12 or 13, which in the past was not wasn't possible.
Yeah, so
by the grace of God, has the opportunity to go to attend a school we call or classify as grade A school. So kudos. And when the president also went, that is when he got to see some of the challenges with regards to the roads.
Yeah. Here's the question that I have for you. Is it not just a case of, thank you, Mr. President, you gave us a region, because he says here that you deserve a second term in office.
Yeah, there's so many factors that one won't say that. Per your policies and what you might have done in the past. So the region is part of it, that is one. Again, the free senior high school is also part of it. We're also talking about the nursing training allowances, because we have an institution there in Sunyani. And of course the roads, that is one thing that I was so much happy about when the president re-indicated that. We have 3 years, just spent 3 years in government, and will not be able to do all. But we are doing our very best. What we have said is not a political talk. For the chiefs to have said that His Excellency deserves another term is no joke. Because they're going to look at your work, what you said you were going to do.
But chiefs have been way into the political space.
Because they're going to use it against you one day. If you say things and you do not have any basis for saying it. My dear, before I tell you something that, you say I'm a member of parliament, people are going to look at my good works before they vote for me again. Gone are the days where you say, you promise, or you say certain things and you don't do, and the people overlook it. So the good people in the Bono region are saying, no, you said you're going to free senior high school, you think it's a joke? You see, in about 10 years to come, you'll see how this country is going to be. The illiteracy rate would have gone down. People would have understood things, better policies, much better. They would have been able to assess issues critically. So we are going to reap. Look at even the free senior high school has kept the high rate of unemployment in the past. After JSS, he's home. She's home. She's unemployed, so she's counted amongst the unemployed in this country. But because of the free senior high school, by the grace of God, all these children are in school. So, the president, and this is unprecedented in the history of Ghana, where in a space of 3 years, we've not even spent 4 years We've been able to roll out all these things. But in my local dialect, they're saying that apadrazi way in koko. It means that you will not be able to do everything.
Say it again.
Apadrazi way in koko.
Okay.
One thing at a time. What's a day? Once we've rolled out the free SHS, once we've rolled out, we've restored the nursing training allowances, once we've restored the teacher training allowances, once we've, when it comes to the ports, we've been able to reduce certain taxes. Once the electricity tariffs, we actually reduced it by 27%. But at the point,
going up now.
It will be stable. Just be patient. Like I said, apadrazi way the cocoa. There's some certain things we might not be able to handle now, but we're thinking about the good people of Ghana, how we can make life indeed very much, not easy, but comfortable. See? And it starts with the free senior high school and with all the other things that I've mentioned.
All right.
So once you are doing a good job, the good people, I mean, it's not just Ghana. Sometimes when I even travel outside the country, the way they hail His Excellency, the President, of his good work. I mean, he's not in here to make money. He's in here to build a brighter future for Ghanaians. Ghana beyond aid.
All right.
Where we will not move to China to beg.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Barbara.
I would certainly like to see Ghana beyond corruption. Okay. I'd like to see Ghana beyond dishonesty. I'd like to see Ghana where we believe that we need not make scandalous promises, and then when we wake up in the morning, we decide to tell people what we want to see.
Scandalous promises. How do you?
You have
asked 3 questions.
Which promises?
And on every question you have asked, it is simply the response or the reframe of the question, and then to respond about free SHS. Let me tell you something, and I use statistics when I speak. I checked yesterday on recent reports from world bodies, such as the IMF, such as the World Bank, and they tell you simply the reasons that Ghana is currently not doing too well. It is not about literacy. Check the literacy rates.
We are not doing too well as in which
the challenges we have
economically
as a
or
people
what do you
is our
referring to?
debt.
Okay. So economically.
First.
Okay.
Secondly, when you talk about not going to China to borrow, which China? Are we not in Ghana? The China hardware money, where is it coming from? Thirdly, when you speak about literacy, check the statistics. You were at the Ministry of Education. In 2015, the rate of literacy in Ghana was 76.7%. Literacy has never been a challenge for Ghana. Systematically, it's been growing. And I will look forward that it will even go even more.
But to reduce.
Wait, I said rates are going, literacy rates don't reduce, they go higher. That's what we are doing. Then
but it will definitely reduce with the free senior high school.
You're not listening. I said they've been growing.
Okay.
So from 76.6%, we can only expect a higher record. That is a fact.
Why?
Rates of literacy is low when you're not doing well. When it's going up, it means you're doing well.
Exactly.
And I'm saying that we've experienced exponential growth over the years.
So basically what Joyce is saying is that the growth is on an upward curve and has not, that doesn't have much to do with your inputs necessarily.
Why?
Then let me come to the next thing.
Are we going to see that in the future?
When you look at the scandalous corruption that we're dealing with, that everybody is speaking to, I think, you see,
corruption.
That when there are issues that we need to deal with, the solution to everything is not free SHS. Progressively free SHS was just as good for those who needed it. We have all come from rural areas and gone to Ivy League schools. In every system, there are those who even have other people, chiefs, communities, supporting students to go to some of these schools for bright students. And this morning, I listened to a documentary by your station. A bright student who was in the chaos of the placements was discovered by Citi FM. Is he not in a school?
Yes.
Look, let's not sit here and behave as if Ghanaians... Look, Ghanaians are very alert now.
Very.
You can only deceive yourself and carry on as if you cannot see that the economy is as bad as it's been. Inflation is at its highest. And all the promises you made, the fisheries community, you listened, the Elmina Fishing Processing Factory is suffering. You are from the central region. Still yet to be commissioned for use. And the fisher folk are struggling. There's pollution. There is lack of fishing. There's pet trolling.
Okay.
There's challenges with premixed fuel.
Pet trolling has been there. Were you able to stop pet trolling? Oh my goodness, please don't let us not go there. Pet trolling these things were not able to try to do
it. We ran out of time. So
We must elevate the debate, especially for those of us who are discerning.
Joyce, please.
Oh my dear.
So let me just read quickly.
Actually, these issues
a message from
were there even before we came in.
Viewers. I'm very optimistic. This is from Bobby, Big Boss teacher in Teacher Mante. I'm very optimistic that the Sampa chief has stated it clear that President Akufo-Addo deserves another term, and his good works will continue for Ghana. And then also, Tyran Taina Nate says, clearly, Joyce, Bawa can't accept the fact that President Akufo-Addo deserves a second term, and so disagrees with the chief of Sampa's call. But hey, the good works of the president will give him his second term. Thank you very much for watching this segment of the show. All too soon, we've come to the end of it. I want to say thank you to my guest, Joyce Bawa, and then also to Barbara Ayisi, who is Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. Thank you for watching this segment of the show.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Citi Tube,
For exclusive breakfast daily content and other Citi TV programs.
like, comment, and share with your friends.